Usually once a year I get to actually have a look at what we've actually achieved, and sometimes you sit in your office and go, yeah, we're getting through this stuff. Are we hitting our target? Are we doing what we're here for? And when you actually put together the report, you go, actually, yeah, we are. And I'm actually proud to say that we've actually hit all our targets that we've put in front of us all the way through, and I'll talk about some of those today. So, as Michael touched on, our clean seed side of the business has really bloomed. It's our largest year that we've ever provided. Last year was 1,500 tonne. That was the previous highest. And as a company, with the current board, we set some goals. It was 1,000 tonne, 2,000 tonne last year. We got to 1,500, and it was 3,000 this year, and we hit over 3,000. Now that's in both whole store and in billet. So those numbers are quite good, and we're actually still selling cane today. We've actually got growers still collecting cane, so those numbers will continue to rise. In 2021, we worked to get with the grower groups to get more cane out. So there was a number of grower groups that were established. They funded their own activities, and of the grower groups this year, they actually put out through their grower groups 731 tonne, and we coordinated that. We actually provided them guidance. We did all the RSD checking on them, all the disease variety checking and the variety correctness, and we're really encouraging growers to form together and work together if possible. Around 100,000 is probably a good figure. We've got some groups that are harvesting groups, some are billet planting groups, some are just farmers who've come together. And what we've done is we've actually getting more adoption of clean seed out through those groups. So for next year, our clean seed plots are in the Long Pocket area. We've moved that down from top of Abergary for 12 months. Our Stone River Farm, Hawkins Creek, we've moved into there for 12 months at this stage. Our Central Farm, our McNade Farm, and a farm at Bangaroo. Our first returns are at Abergary, Stone River, Central, McNade, and Yaruga. The area planted this year is in par with the previous year. On the tissue culture front, we've sold this year 19,250 plants this year. That continues to increase, and we've got a lot of new growers joining that. That's the highest number that we've ever sold, and we're now probably the biggest supplier of tissue culture to farmers in the industry. The hot water treatment tanks, we made some big investments there in the last 2 years. We had to change the monorail beam last year because it was deemed unsafe, so we repaired that, and that cost 50,000. This year we've fixed the hot water treatment tanks at Victoria Mill, and there's one more lot of maintenance that needs to be done on those poles for rust and rust conversion. And this year the numbers were a little bit lower, 38.5 tonne. It's usually over 200 plus tonnes. And that's most probably a lot of the growers who normally come and use that. So because the cane was lodged this year, it was a bit hard to put on crates and on trailers, so that numbers were down a little bit. On the RSD testing side, these numbers are quite massive. We've been increasing this, and with the introduction of QCPR, it allows, as Michael said, allows us to start earlier. So our teams went into the field in March, started collecting RSD samples, and 1,453 QCPR samples were collected. We also did 1,188 through the phase contrast microscope, where growers hadn't told us early enough and they still needed a test, and we couldn't get their test away to Brisbane fast enough to get a result. We also are testing a new method called LSV, and there's been some research done outside of our area on that, and we're actually looking at we're currently comparing the three methods to see which ones give us better results, but also looking at is there opportunities to get further cost savings by using the different methods. So Project Cane is our biggest project. At the present time, a large number of our staff are funded in that, and a lot of our extension activities come through this project. And the project partners are ourselves, Queensland Government, that's Mark Poggio's team at DAF, do all the economics work, and some of the others within the Queensland Government group in the ag side come across in that, and Water based at James Cook University. And GBRF is our major funding partner. So some of the highlights on this program or project is we've been able to engage 298 farmers through this program. That's quite substantial, either through our extension programs or through nutrient management plans. So this is some of the activities the project team's been working on. We've got a component called the Clear as Mud program where we're working with mill mud and looking at reduced rates and the nutrition programs associated with that. We have our large section of nutrient management plans where we're delivering nutrient management plans and pest plans to growers as a part of this project. And then we have things like workshops, shed meetings and other extension activities that are being run and funded through this program. So this is some of our partners at work. This is Aaron and the Trop Water team, and we have a series of water quality monitoring sites throughout the region where growers can engage with the research, and we've got one of the photos down here. And last week we had a round of shed meetings where there was data presented and information presented and discussion around the water quality and growers' interaction with that. Project Catalyst is our second biggest project, and that's also funded by GBRF, but managed by Catchment Solutions out of Mackay, and this is our second largest project. This project supports 26 growers, has an impact area of 38,000 hectares across 51 farms. It's done work in nutrient management plans, water sampling of 2 trial sites, fallow legume management, and EM mapping and soil mapping to address constraints. There's also innovation trials. There's 3 innovation trials that have been long-term running in this area, and the girls who run this program have been looking at variable rate phosphorus. We believe there's high variability within the district with phosphorus, and we have some good data now how to manage that is being looked at in this program. Managing weeds smarter with drone technology and better management of imidacloprid and actually getting it zonally applied and getting it in the right locations where it's based on soil type. A third project, and this is a smaller project, and Ellie and our team's been funded partially by this project to support growers and technical support to the growers involved. We didn't know how this program would go when we got it up, and the board members actually don't know as well, but we've been able to achieve 3 matches in the district where farms have transferred from older growers to newer growers, and part of this program has been some of the advice that's been provided from the Cultivate Farms side to these people who've actually transitioned across, and that now, Ali's now working and Richard's working now with those growers who are younger growers or new growers to bring them up to speed. We have a small project funded by National Land Care, and that's really to look at organic waste streams. This project's been running for a number of years, and it was a partnership between the 3 regional councils, Burdekin Prod Services and ourselves. This project will be completed this year, and the results will be published in our annual publication at a later date. We are also a member of the Soil CRC. Now, the Soil CRC is a national program. We aren't a research organisation. We're a development and extension organisation. So we have researchers from all over the country working on matters that are specific or important to you. And there's a whole list of projects that are operating in the area, but probably the standout ones is this one here. They're actually looking at taking a soil test and putting it into a microchip where you can get your soil, push it into this little microchip reader, and it will give you the nutrients that you are currently in your soil. So that project's progressing quite well. We have another project looking at organic carriers, and this project's to look at replacement of plastics in Suscon, Maxi, looking at organic carriers, and that project's actually progressing quite well. So we have researchers from multiple universities working on this, and they come in and out of the region to do things that are specific to your needs. On the variety development front, we have the return variety trials, and we've had them operating for a number of years, and they're very different to the plant breeding trials. These are large strips harvested at commercial rates. We're also doing some monitoring, but we've targeted the problematic areas, heavy clays, high packing nitra, sodic soils and things like that, where the SRA breeding program currently isn't. And this is a work together project, so they have their stuff and we have ours, and we actually share information. We have 2 sites, existing sites, one at Abergarie and one at Hamley to harvest. The industry variety meeting requested that there be further work done on QNOA 2274. We established a number of strip trials last year, and those will be looked at by ourselves and the SRA pathologists in the next few weeks. and then that information will come back to the Regional Variety Committee next year. We've propagated a lot of the new varieties that SRA have currently got coming through their breeding program, and they're propagated on our central farm, so that the recommendations that come out through the Regional Variety Committee, SRA hands those varieties up and we start the multiplication process. We also support the SRA Wilmar plant breeding programs at McNabe with the provision of land and our glass house at McNabe for them to grow seedlings and to also do some trial work down there or crossing. On the feral pig front, this program's now been running for 14 years. It's had a recent review. HCPSL supports this program, so some of your service fee goes to supporting this program. We've also got together a group of growers. They came together and are actually helping them in the Lanarkost area where the biggest hotspot is in there. And we've got a group called the Lanarkost Action Group that are working together. And they've got a person allocated to them who's really trying to work through and get those pig numbers down. And this year to date, around 1,200 pigs have been managed, with 70% of those managed through the Poisoning 1080 program. We've been able to secure some small funding for this program, and HCPSL was successful in getting the funding for this program, and it's called Project Squealers, to look at novel technologies to manage feral pigs. In our core program, we've never had enough money to do anything other than the core work, and this project is actually allowing us to look at new technologies that may reduce our costs in managing the main program, because as you know, costs are rising, and so this project is looking at new things like drones, remote sensing, artificial intelligence, etc., that we could possibly bring back to the core program. On the rat front, and if you were at our meetings last week, you would have heard our presentation then. We're currently in the process of securing a new aerial baiting permit. That permit was statewide. A lot of the other regions have said we don't have a problem, we don't need a renewal, so Mackay, ourselves, were the first two to go. Just waiting for some detail to come through from the department, but they reassure me that the permit should be in place this week. Plain Creek and Serena are now moving forward with their permit proposals as well. And I'd really like to thank the help from Kangaroos Brisbane to secure that permit, and Mick Quirk and I've spent a fair bit of time working together on this. We have to report rats back to the Queensland government. They are a native species, so we have to report back every 3 months and annually how the program is operating, how many rats have been targeted, what location, so we have to provide all the location maps and stuff like that. As Michael touched on, the GPS base station network, we did a look at that. We did some big changes last year in that program, and we brought on a contractor who does that contract work with us, and we looked at an upgrade of a system bringing on Warrens Hill. We're actually going to be looking at some further rationalisation of that network in the next 12 months to look at where we go to, and we're currently doing that reconnaissance. But that's the new base station at Warrens Hill, and it's working quite well at the present time. On our fee-for-service front, we do the provision of EM mapping and drone services for either projects or industry matters, or individuals wanting that service. So that service continues. With the youth, we have an under 18 section at the show, and HCPSL has been actively involved, and probably one of the fruits of our investment is actually one of our new employees, Rhiannon. We saw in some of our programs she come to work experience with us, and she also regularly would work at the under 18 section. This year we've sponsored the under 18 section of the show. We've actually had a challenge, and we put this out to schools, and Rhiannon's been managing that, and a bit of help from Bailey, getting kids involved with their parents or with a farmer to get tissue culture. And we've actually provided some tissue culture material, and there's actually a challenge to bring that back to the Ingham show next year, to really get people to start looking at tissue culture and how we can use it. We've hosted students from both local high schools, and we man the Future Careers in Hinchinbrook Day as well, a school there. On the extension front, we held the annual Walk and Talk Day down at McNabe this year. We conducted an RSD management workshop in this room with SRA, and we've undertaken significant numbers of activities around extension. in both Project Cane and Project Catalyst, and our recent shed meetings which were last week. Just want to put a bit of an advert in. Next year is our board election, so there will be an opportunity to vote for your members from the growing side of the business. So we'll have an election in March next year. So if you are interested, please put your name forward. I'd actually like to thank our sponsors for some of our events, for our walk and talk. SRA, New Farm and Solar were the three sponsors for our annual walk and talk day. And our major funding providers are Project Catalyst, National Land Care, GBRF, Zoll CRC, Queensland Government, you guys as the cane farmers of the industry, and Wilmar. So I'd like to thank those funding providers. All this work's done by not one individual, it's done by a team, and they're the green shirts down the back. I'd actually like to thank the team, the one up here. I'd like to thank the team for all their efforts. They put in some big hours, work Saturdays, Sundays, some weekends to get cane out or harvest trials, in here early, in here late, trying to get things happening for your industry. So I'd actually like at this point to say thanks to the team for your hard work and dedication.